Good morning. How you doing, Ryan?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Great to have you on. Thanks everyone for joining. Those who don't know, I'm Ashley, the co-founder and CEO of VNTANA. We're a 3D asset management platform that makes it incredibly easy to publish 3D everywhere. That is our mission. That is why we love WebXR, and we're excited to talk about it today with Ryan from ArborXR. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I head up business development at ArborXR. I've been there for about a year and a half. ArborXR is an XR device management platform. So we are kind of in a similar business to you. It's we want to enable people to be able to experience XR easily. So we offer things like device management, content management. You can control the headset experience. That's really what we do. My job largely is just finding the right partners that we can match up with customers that need help. That's what I do.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's been really great starting to work with you because headsets are great, and we work with lots of enterprises. But all of a sudden, you don't want them just being able to download anything to the headset, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it makes a lot of sense. Well, cool. Well, we're here to talk about WebXR, which really helps just make it easy to create AR VR experiences across devices. But why don't you kind of give us some more insights? Like, what is WebXR, and what are like how is it making immersive experiences more accessible to businesses?
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, before we even get into it, I want to make it really clear. You will be, most people listening to this, you'll be probably bigger experts than I am if you've ever developed XR content. But what I love about WebXR is that it is more accessible. It's something that somebody like me that did not come from an XR background before being at ArborXR, I can wrap my head around it. So what it is, it's all in the name. WebXR is really just web-based XR experiences that can be accessed directly from the web browser, which really means that there's not a need for an actual app. The way that I kind of think about it is, we all understand and we're assimilated with Google Drive, Google Docs, and so we like that because it's like you can easily share a link, you can open it up on any device. That's the concept. That's the ideal world for WebXR. Is it's easy to share, it's easy to access across platforms, and it's a lower lift in general. So that's kind of how I would sum up WebXR. I think that the
Or like
question.
Dropbox, if you're someone like me who hates OneDrive and has so many issues. But same idea.
Um, yes, absolutely. That's a perfect example. Yeah, and so on my side, like when I first started to get into the XR industry and I was looking for great experiences, WebXR was some of the first stuff that I experienced because it was easy to go find. I could find some like free experiences online, found some really cool educational stuff, and so that was actually one of my some of my first experiences were with WebXR, and it just made sense for me. Even being kind of new to it, I was like, I know how to click a link, I know how to go to a website, how to navigate a web browser, and so yeah, that's how I would describe WebXR.
Yeah, definitely. And then if you're a developer, thinking about where you want to start building and what platforms you want to use, WebXR is so great because it instantly works across desktop, mobile devices, and any headset that supports WebXR versus having to build specifically for, HTC and Quest because they run on different operating systems. So just from like that, if you're a business thinking about how you're going to invest in different software experiences, whether it's for training or for sales. And you might decide to switch headsets later on. Who knows what the future is? It's changing super quickly as it always does. So, yeah, we're big proponents of XR for that
Well,
reason, for
and
sure.
I can speak like from just like the partnership angle. We have a lot of partners that develop content, and we've definitely witnessed and kind of been alongside them as they've had to figure out how to translate their applications to new platforms. And it can be a lift. I mean, it really can be, and it can take them time. And I will say, just from the developer standpoint, all of us are working hard. All of us are grinding, and I think from like the engineering perspective, you look at things in blocks of time. And with WebXR, it does make that translation considerably easier. So instead of I have to lift, you have that one application that ideally you can launch and it can go everywhere. So yeah, I will say from just the partner perspective, it helps you trim some of that fat and save some time. And then for users though, I think, and that's why I touched on like my first experiences with WebXR just kind of being easy is for us at Arbor, we really prioritize like getting WebXR into that same space and same mental space, if you will, of traditional VR and AR experiences. We wanted people to be able to get in quickly and see that, oh, WebXR is right there in the same mix. It is just another way of accessing it. I think that there's, and I don't know if you'd agree with me here, Ashley, but I think that there is sometimes some unjust criticism of WebXR at times within the industry. And it's like, oh, it's not as, I've heard this myself where it's like, oh, well, WebXR, some of it's not as quality. And I think it's just unjust. Like I said, I think that has kind of dated itself a little bit, because from the customer angle, we've realized that like putting WebXR right there next to, AR and VR, we offer it on our entry plan. We offer WebXR support, so customers can go in and just click a link and go to WebXR, a WebXR link, and then have this experience with just like a couple of clicks. And I think that for us, we've realized that customers really have adopted that people are using different forms of XR applications that are downloaded, WebXR links. We've especially seen it in education early on. We started to see that teachers were wanting to use those links. So I think it's just one of those things that it's kind of become a dated criticism, and it's
Yeah.
really, really, really evolved.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool to see. So, Aztec is one of our joint clients, industrial manufacturer. They have massive SolidWorks, ANSYS simulation models, all types of digital twins, and they were actually able to use VNTANA to create WebXR links that we put into Arbor. So their sales team, it was easy enough to put on a headset, and Arbor created like an icon saying, this is your burners. Click,
Yep.
and it looks just like an application, but it opens like a web browser, and they can navigate. And so the sales team, who are non-technical and used to doing walkthroughs of real life asphalt plants, can actually like do the same thing on a headset. And I think the
Absolutely.
other part, to your point of the quality, that's really where an optimization tool comes in. And that's one of the things we're constantly trying to solve, and there's a few others out there. But being able to take these massive SolidWorks, Siemens NX, other 3D files, digital twins, and shrink them down as much as possible without changing the visual quality, so that you can have a really performant experience. Because WebXR is streaming over the web, so think about what type of internet you have. And if you're
Absolutely.
trying to pull a 2 GB file, it's probably not going to be that great. You
Absolutely.
know so
Absolutely. Well, and that is where you guys come in though massively, is that you're in a really important way is you guys are able to do that with those files, to translate them in a way that they are not just accessible, which is one of the beauties of WebXR, but that they're also high quality, and it's not that lag. And so someone like you think about like a salesperson. We have one example of that where we have a customer that's using this for sales, and they're using these models, and those people, time is of the essence. They do not want to have to learn it. I mean, I think that's all of us, honestly. Like, we don't want to have to learn a
yeah.
new thing if it's uncomfortable. And so, but they're able to quickly go in and access it. And that thing has to be true to form. And so, even the products I've been able to see that you guys have created, I mean, it's true to form. You're not losing any of that image resolution. You're not losing any of the detail that you have to have. Because on some of these things, and for the listeners, there may be some of you that are in a manufacturing space where like something is as small as a bolt matters on a digital twin. And so that's what's amazing about you guys. You guys are able to do that, shrink things down and like keep that level of detail. And I think we're going to see that continue to move in the industry, where people are able to use these WebXR links to go and look at products like that.
Yeah, and would love to talk, just hear some more of the kind of case studies and partners you've worked with. I know people are using ArborXR across. Seems like a lot of training use cases, as well as sales. But I don't know if there's some kind of examples you can provide.
There's one that I tried to get permission in advance to use their name, and
Yeah.
I was not able to get the name, the seal of approval on the name, but I'm able to talk around all the other details. So, but it's one of my favorite examples, or one that stands out the most. We have a major airline that we work with, and what they did is they did a lot of assessments. Why I liked this specific example was that they stepped back from XR in general, and they started to think about, like, what are our use cases? Where can we use XR technology in general? They looked at everything from like mobile AR experiences to head-mounted displays, and then they looked at the content types. Would they do it in-house? Would it be done out of house? And so after all of that assessment, they really realized that WebXR was the way for them to go. And the reason they landed there was because they wanted to train their flight crews on a myriad of things, whether it was they needed to create a digital twin of hulls, or they needed to give specific soft skills type training, or they needed to train them on emergency type situations. So it was all sorts of stuff, but they knew that they needed to iterate really quickly on the training. And that was what was interesting, that stood out to me, having known that situation, or known that use case, was I really loved how they stepped back, and they even though they knew VR can be a very glitzy, glammy thing. We all know that, we're in the industry. We probably all even pitch it that way at times. But stopping and saying, how can we do this the right way to where it can scale? And that's what they did. And then they were able to put the training out there for their flight crews, and then quickly get feedback and iterate on it in real time. So they were
Yeah.
able to, because WebXR is a little lighter lift, and because you're able to move and adapt a little more quickly, they were able to shift with the changes in an airplane, or even just, like I said, like the feedback from the crew themselves. They'd say, oh, that's a good point. Let's go back to the drawing board really quick. Let's iterate. And then 2 weeks later, they would have a new thing to be able to show them. And it's really amazing, because we've seen that scale. We've seen that scenario specifically. We've seen the feedback. And then what's also great about that I think stands out is WebXR kind of opened the path for them to engage stakeholders and end users in a way that is super important. Like, I think that that's one of the things we sometimes overlook in our industry, is like how important it is to get that validation and a sense of ownership from the end users. So those crews felt like they were a part of it. It's really cool to be able to give feedback, and then 2 weeks later you see it in real life in a headset. You're like, whoa, that was what I said. And so
Yeah.
it's just a really cool scenario where they were able to kind of move back and forth and adapt really quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that ability to change is so important, because the absolute worst thing you could do as a business is invest in XR headsets and custom software, and then nobody uses it and it sits on the shelf, right?
Yeah,
That's the nightmare.
absolutely. Yeah,
And so, we've seen, if people have a great, 3D library and a way to manage that 3D content, and if they can connect it via API, it's really easy to say, hey, I've built these 3 WebXR experiences. Oh, but this hull is changing. Let me update that 3D model in one place. And then it's going to automatically propagate to all these different
exactly.
experiences, which is awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. And no, that's
What
so
about you guys?
great.
I'm curious. I mean, you do this all the time, so I'm just curious. I know we have time
Yeah.
we're up against, but I'm really curious to hear like a cool use case or example that you guys have experienced, since you're doing it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Aztec Industries, the fact that their sales team is now equipped with headsets, and they can throw them on and click a link and walk through the burner options for the asphalt plant, or these other. I mean, they sell
Yeah.
massive equipment for asphalt and concrete manufacturing, which is super complex. You literally cannot bring it with you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the fact that they can also just send a link to somebody and they can open it on their phone. So I think that was a really big aha moment. We work with their head simulation engineer, Dr. Andrew Hobbs, and he was like, this is amazing. I could send a link to my CEO and he could open up a simulation model on his phone. Right. So that
That's awesome.
accessibility to then get him excited to then put on the headset. Right. So that was
Absolutely.
cool. And then we're working with this other industrial manufacturer, and they're so excited because they're like, oh, I can send a link to somebody who's out on a job site, who needs to be able to quickly look at the CAD file, and we can add hotspots and show them, hey, if this should look like this is what this part number is, so they could quickly diagnose the problem and then order the replacement part. So that
Oh, that's
increased
awesome.
speed, yeah, that speed of maintenance diagnosis. And then at the end of the day, like, you want to sell more parts. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that was cool. And I know they're working on integrating headsets too, but I think that's why I love WebXR, because you can view it on all different devices. So it makes
Yeah,
it, a bit more accessible. Um,
absolutely.
so yeah, and so what are some of your predictions? What do you think's coming in the world of WebXR?
I so one thing is, we've already touched on this, but like accessibility is huge, in terms of like how can they get to it, what platforms can they get to it on. But I think that broader approach to that topic of like what does it really mean to give more people access? I think with the VR industry, early on we had those innovators, the people that were like just tech geeks. They were excited. They like wanted to jump in. They wanted to test headsets. They wanted to give feedback. Some of our earliest customers were some of the most amazing in terms of giving us feedback, but they were extremely technical. They were enthusiasts. And I think we've seen a shift in the industry more towards that early adopter stage where it's broadening. And I think that is coming with this renewed and I think really important focus on accessibility. How do we allow more people with differing abilities to be able to jump into immersive experiences? And I'll try to keep this brief, but not too long ago, just in the last couple of months, I heard a story from a customer that was about them taking XR into their workspace or their workplace, and everybody was excited. It was this fast food group, a really big one, where they were like they they wanted to get a lot of young people, but a varying group of end users. They wanted to get them excited, and they take these headsets in. Everybody's into it, and then there's a young woman that she had mobility issues in her hands, and so she was not able to use the headsets. And when he told me the story, you could just tell it like messed with him. And I think,
Mm,
and he was like, "How could we have done that better?" And we now all of a sudden we've made someone feel excluded. And I think we think about that in the education space, but where I came from, I was at a really big company, Apple, where like accessibility was huge. You had to allow people in an enterprise space to be able to have different modalities of learning. And I think that's where we're moving, and I'm excited about it. I think that WebXR offers that already. I think that there's advancements in the API, the device API, that are there's already advancements in that area, but we're seeing the broadening approach to hand tracking. So you're going to have people that can do more. I think that we're going to see more of those accessibility options, and I think that's a place where we have to go as an industry, and we should
yeah.
go. And I really think that like beyond just being able to access it on different devices, it's also that will bring it to different groups of people that haven't necessarily been able to experience that. There's no perfect technology, but I think that WebXR offers more of that openness. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's coming.
Yeah, no, agreed. The accessibility is huge, and I'm also extremely excited about the improvement in hand tracking, just so that you can do more things. But yeah, we need it. Just like it took a while for websites to become more accessible. I know,
Hmm.
personally, my dad's going blind, so like I bought the first headset like 8 years ago, so he could like see it before, it kept getting worse. But it's like,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
cool.
think about the future when we're going to need that, vision impairment and voiceover, just like a website,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's complex and hard, but so necessary to figure out.
absolutely, absolutely. That's cool that you got to
um
experience that though. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
yeah,
I haven't
yeah,
gotten
we
my
like
dad in
we've
a
been.
headset yet.
Oh my
I need to
gosh, you
have
got
that
to do
happen.
it. Yeah, like their minds blown. He's like, you realize like when I was a kid, microwaves were invented, and now I'm like
Yeah,
in a virtual world.
yeah. I got my dad to like
So
look at one time, and then he was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." And I need to get him in there to where he can really experience it.
yeah, you got to do it. It's so fun. Great. Well, yeah, and so with like ArborXR, I know we talked a lot about, the fact that it does make it really easy. You guys do support WebXR as well as software. How how else would somebody get started Like if they're trying to like, they want to do WebXR, how would they get started with you guys, and what does that look like? Or what are some things to think about as a business starts to look at?
I think there's some of the obvious things like, you want to identify like what's the right use case. I know that you guys work with customers in that way. All of us in the industry are sort of that. We've all become that, as like we help customers kind of identify what is the best place to go, what's an area where you can really have an impact, where can you go find some level of ownership. And I think that I think that WebXR allows for that. You already mentioned it, where that one group is using mostly mobile, but eventually they're going to move towards headset. So I think that's a really great place to start. What I would say though, I think that, and I've already touched on it here, but I think one of the most important things is really to go find people that are just as excited as you. XR is really foreign to some people, and I think that it really is all about how do we get people to understand what WebXR technology is. The beauty of it is a web browser. It's found in a web browser, and so you can really show people that extremely quickly. There are all sorts of really great like WebXR expeditions, for example, out there that you can just show some coworkers and get them excited about it. And I think if you can get that internal stakeholder kind of excitement up, that's one of the places I would start. Is as you're investigating everything else, it's just popping around to whether it's cubicles or manufacturing floors or training departments, and just saying like, hey, take a look at this. Because I think the worry on my end always is that we're kind of keeping the XR technologies in a little bubble within our organizations. And I think we want to spread that, just like any sort of training modality. But I think for us, the other thing is we have wanted to make it extremely easy. You already touched on this, but we're going to make it extremely easy to, if you are going to use WebXR, while it is already extremely easy, with ArborXR, you can take that link, turn it into a little shortcut, and a person can go in and just click one time and they can get there. And then something I think is just as important is if you're launching, is how do you have control as somebody that's actually an enthusiast? How do you launch it for them? And that's something that we also provide, is that remote launch feature of being able to, I could put a headset on you, Ashley, and from here I could launch it, a WebXR experience for you, and you just have the headset on. And I think that's extremely valuable. We work with all sorts of different people, all of us do, and a lot of them don't feel comfortable having to click around. That's where you feel silly sometimes, is having to like click around. Everybody's looking at you, and being able as a leader to launch it. I think that is an area where I would start, is like, how do we get those people excited and make it easy for them?
Yeah, being able to see what that person is seeing and guide them through an experience is so, so helpful, because I have been there next to someone wearing a headset being like, "What are you seeing? Okay, look left. No, look more
Yes,
left."
it's
Like
so weird. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so terrible. So
Yep.
so
Yep. Absolutely.
that's awesome. Just having kind of like that God mode where you can be seeing what they see
Yes.
and
Yeah.
guide them is super
Yeah.
important. The other thing we haven't really touched on is pixel streaming. So this is something that comes up a lot, in our discussions with some of the more technical folks. And it's like, hey, like, well, why can't I use pixel streaming? Like NVIDIA is all about that. They want you streaming the highest quality, biggest 3D asset. So you could have that, 10 gigabyte file, but if you're pixel streaming, it's only gonna be rendering the part you're looking at. So that's one solution for WebXR for large assets, but the caveat to that is you need really good internet. So something to think about is, are you going to go the pixel streaming route and say, I'm not going to optimize anything, I want the true CAD, SolidWorks, etc. file, or do I want somebody in the field to be able to pull up a link and be able to diagnose this problem? And who knows what the internet is there? And hey, like, we need to make sure we have an optimization solution to minimize this stuff. So I do want to bring up that obviously I'm on the optimization camp, but that is an option. And then kind of the third thing that we have run into is there are a number of defense companies where security just won't let you connect to the internet. So
Absolutely.
WebXR is not an option for you, unfortunately. So those are, have to bring up kind of some of those limitations. So if you are defense, We work with a few, and it's very, desktop based. We can't even ever see the 3D models. I don't even know what's happening with the software, but yeah, but it's cool that all these different industries are using it. And I'm curious because, since ArborXR, you guys are just kind of you're the host to enable all different types of content everywhere. What are the biggest industries you're seeing? Like out of all the industries you work with, what's kind of taking off the most that you see?
Well, I can speak to, before this, I looked at it through the lens of WebXR specifically. I'll
Mhm.
speak to that is, healthcare is an area that we've seen a lot of that because people want to be able to quickly, in whether it's in a hospital or a clinic or even an education space like a university, med school, things like that. People want to be able to quickly jump in and see a catalog of objects, tools, equipment that they might be dealing with, or anatomy. I've seen WebXR specifically be used in like kind of the anatomical space, which is really interesting. And it is just easier. It's easier for someone that is there to be able to grab a iPad or a tablet or whatever and be able to jump in. So that is one that we've definitely seen move. And then we touched on this already, but manufacturing, absolutely manufacturing. Anywhere where there's heavy equipment. I mean, Aztec gave an example where he was like, it's one big machine, but that machine has like 1,000 or 10,000 different little parts. And I think it makes sense that it's scaled in that area that WebXR has. And then, we're talking a lot about enterprise today, but I will say, like, we've seen a lot of growth in the education space, like the university level, even K-12, where teachers can, especially with ArborXR, teachers can go in and like drop in a bunch of links they want their students to get access to, block everything else off, and then students can go in and get these different experiences, whether it's expeditions or even, like I said, med school, nursing programs, things like that. And so those are the three that we've seen the most growth in, and just in terms of like adoption. We've seen people really find that WebXR can work for them in those spaces pretty quickly.
Very cool. That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time. So my last question is like, what's your prediction for the next 2 to 5 years? How do you see headsets, evolving, and what we're, are we
It is.
here? Are we finally here?
No, I don't think so. But here's the thing, I think there's always this, like, when I jumped into the XR industry and then I was doing all the, trying to cram and you want to look at the historical, like, okay, where did we all come from? And I think forever we've all been saying like the headsets are getting there, they're getting there, they're getting there. And I actually think what is really interesting is I just think that the augmented reality specifically, we've all talked about it forever, like it's coming and we're starting to see more use cases. But I think that with society getting more comfortable with AR, I mean, my mom has used like the IKEA thing to look at a couch in a living room.
Yeah.
Like that is a unique thing. And I think that we can all make all the fancy tech, but if the market's not there, if like people aren't there yet, then it's just not going to work. And I think that even things like, I mean, I have a nephew that, like, he's on Snapchat and he just like shows me all the crazy like AR tools. I'm just like, this is bananas because this is like real
Yeah.
technology that kids are just like. And so, anyways, I think that that's what I'm excited about. Is I think AR technology, I think the hardware will advance, but I also just think the market and the knowledge and the adaptability of the people is advancing. And I think we're just going to see it. I think we're going to see that, like, soon, very soon. I think that companies are just going to have training, learning and development programs that involve AR, models that involve mobile platform AR, that involve even headsets. Because I just think that overlay, I just think it's becoming more common, and I'm excited about it because I really do think that it's a unique thing. But I'm also very terrified because I'm going to be like the old guy who like doesn't know how to use stuff very soon, very very soon.
Yeah. No, but AR is great. I mean, thank God for Snapchat and Pokemon Go, because people didn't even know they were using a technology.
Exactly.
It just was fun and it's a game. And that's really when I think, tech has been adopted because people don't even know they're using it. The other
Absolutely.
side, talking with some of the manufacturers we work with, they're like, we'll only do AR because people who have never tried a headset get more afraid if they can't see anything, right? But with AR,
Yeah,
even if you're wearing a headset, you can see the people around you, you can see your environment, you're not going to like run into a wall and be embarrassed. So that
yeah,
was really interesting. Of a lot of the manufacturers I talked to are like, we're only going to do augmented reality, which is interesting. Well, cool.
that's
Well,
a great point.
Ryan,
Yeah.
yeah, well, Ryan, thanks so much. We're so excited to continue working with ArborXR, and you guys are really providing a key element for enterprises who are trying to control the different programs and devices. So, thank
Yeah,
you.
you all as well. You all as well. We're extremely excited for the partnership. It's growing, and I think that I will just give you guys a little plug here because I wanted to make sure this was there. But if you have any assets that in your head you're thinking, oh, we want to use this in some sort of immersive environment, whether it's headsets and that's where we come in or not, um, please reach out to Ashley and her team to talk about like what that might look like, even just if it's just getting a little bit of advisement. I would highly recommend them. So that's my plug for
Awesome.
you at the end. Thank
Thanks.
you for having me.
Happy to help. Yep. Have a good one.
Have a good day.